Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Winners and Whiners Survivor Showdown, week number 4. I'm Andrew Champagne alongside Scott Steehn, and if you like what we do, go on down below, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. If you want to see more of our offerings, head on over to our expert handicapper section at winnersandwhiners.com and use our promo code SURVIVOR for 20% off any individual item. What I will say, though, is Scott, I don't know how many survivors there are out there after the first 3 weeks of the season, which could charitably be called a survivor bloodbath for anybody in this kind of a contest. Obviously, when you think of a survivor or an eliminator pool, you think of the Circa contest, and they are down to very few entries to where some people are wondering if that contest is going to be over around Thanksgiving.
Man, and bloodbath is exactly the word that I had in mind as well. There is no other way to describe the first 3 weeks of this season for Survivor participants. I was hoisted on my own petard last week as I went down with the masses, and yeah, I would say I'm anxious to talk about it, but I'm not. But we have to anyway. So, you want to get to the recap?
Yes, let's get to the recap of the Winners and Whiners Survivor contest. And folks, when we say it was a bloodbath, we mean it. In fact, dare I say, many people went down into the black hole.
Ooh. Well put, sir. Well put indeed.
Yeah, the Raiders against the Panthers. Apparently, all the Panthers needed was for Andy Dalton to slide in a quarterback for that offense to become thoroughly revitalized. Not just him either. Chuba Hubbard had a heck of a game carving up that Raiders defense. And as Antonio Pierce put it in his post-game press conference, he believed some players made, how did he put it, business decisions near the end of that game. That's interesting.
Yes, and that's not a phrase that's charitably used in the NFL. That means guys are holding back on their effort. They're not making the extra hit. They're not diving for balls. They're not making hard tackles. Making a business decision is about the worst insult you can give an NFL player.
It's not good, for sure. And speaking of not good, I was already dead with my safe picks going into the week. My, oh my, what's going on in Cincinnati?
I don't know, man. I think we may have to face the very real possibility that team isn't very good. I hate to say it.
Certainly not on defense. I mean, Jaden Daniels apparently ran a nice little college offense to the tune of no punts.
Yeah, no punts, and no turnovers for, would you say, the first time in NFL history?
Yes, that's for sure. Also, by the way, I got to say, shout out to Andre Yoshivas, who won me a fantasy football matchup. I did not think I was going to say Andre Yoshivas won me a fantasy football matchup at any point this season coming into the year. But 5 catches for 50 some odd yards and one of the late touchdowns helped me out immensely in of my leagues.
Cool story, bro. The play before that cost me plus 170 on T. Higgins anytime touchdown, as he was sitting there wide open with a campfire, and Burrows threw it over his head and an uncatchable ball. So.
Boy, that's bad. And he had a couple of other efforts late to where I think one of those passes hit off his arm or something like that, and then the Bengals ran it in. That's a tough beat. I am very, very sorry for that.
But you touched on it, Andrew. The lack of defense from the Bengals was just astounding. Washington had 6 drives. They scored touchdowns on their first 4. They kicked a field goal, scored another touchdown. The other 2 drives they had were just kneel downs. So they scored touchdowns on 5 of 6 drives, scored on every drive, something that they've done in the past, except when they played the Giants, they scored 7 field goals. So they're upgrading the results of their offense for sure. So yeah, you and I as if we needed more dirt on the coffin, there it is. Hey, how did our strategic picks do?
Well, that's the silver lining, Scott, because my strategic picks remain 3-0. That was not a pretty game between the Indianapolis Colts and the Chicago Bears. Anthony Richardson did not play well. Caleb Williams' stats looked great, but it took him 52 throws to get to 300 yards. Right. And ultimately, the Colts managed to eke that one out. And I got to tell you, I am in no hurry to take them at any point the rest of the season. Thank you, Indianapolis. I am severing this relationship. And Scott, you wound up coming through with the Seahawks.
I did. I took the Seahawks and faded the lack of a quarterback for the Dolphins, and it worked out fine. And it worked out especially well once Skylar Thompson went down in that game, which left him with a touchdown Timmy Boyle running the offense. And yeah, that was a tough spot under the best of circumstances for the Dolphins, and they were nowhere near the best of circumstances. Seattle going to get a little more significant test this week, though, as they travel to Detroit to take on the Lions there on Monday night. So we'll see.
I'm looking forward to that game. That's going to be a really good one between two offenses that can move the ball and two defenses that can wreak havoc. Man, Aiden Hutchinson in particular, so much fun to watch.
Okay, so before we get out of here, I know we're kind of focused on our lack of effort and what we got. We're still going to make picks for the upcoming week. But Andrew, how many do we have left out of the 51 we started with?
We have 5. We started with 51 less than a month ago. We have 5 players left in the Winners and Whiners Survivor League. If you are one of those 5, kudos to you. You have done a fantastic job to
drop
this
us
point.
A comment. If you're one of the 5, drop us a comment and tell us how you did it, because Andrew and I obviously have no idea.
We have questions, let's just say.
Have questions.
So,
all right.
Yeah, you got 5 left. I mean, forget about the circuit contest being over by Thanksgiving. I'm worried about our contest being over by Halloween.
Halloween, yeah, absolutely.
So let's get to November. We're going to get to November, Scott. Let's get to November with this Survivor contest. If you're still alive out there, best of luck. We are going to try to give you strong advice for this upcoming week of NFL Week 4. As a reminder, go on down below, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you like what we do. You can use the promo code SURVIVOR for 20% off any individual item in the Winners and Whiners Expert Handicapping store. Let's dive in, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. So take this with a grain of salt, because my safe picks each of the last 2 weeks have gone down in flames. This week, though, I am riding with the ayahuasca-loving guy, Aaron Rodgers, and the New York Football Jets going up against the Denver Broncos. I'm going to give Bo Nix some credit. He looked really good against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs came out flat and just never looked like they were playing with any urgency in that particular game on either side of the ball, man. It was not a pretty picture. Bo Nix, meanwhile, seemed very eager to put the first 2 weeks in the rearview mirror. He made plays with his arm. He made plays with his legs. Shout out to him. The Jets are a much tougher defense, though, than the Buccaneers, who I had high hopes for at the start of the year, but that was a top 10 unit last year that just doesn't seem interested in replicating that kind of performance this season. The Jets have a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball. I think Bo Nix and the Broncos are going to be in big trouble as far as moving the ball is concerned. The Jets have had a couple of days to recover from a Thursday night game in which they were never really tested. They crushed the New England Patriots, and I think they crushed the Broncos on Sunday at MetLife.
All right. Well, the Broncos jumped up and bit me last week, as I had my best paid play was Tampa Bay to cover that number. The Broncos had just really shown nothing on either side of the ball going into that game, and they stepped it up on, of course, both sides of the ball. So let's talk about my safe play, shall we, buddy? I'm taking a look at the Houston Texans there as they go up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars are traveling in this one. I just don't like this Jaguars team at all. To me, this looks like a team that is just out of sync on both sides of the ball. The defense really can't stop anybody. Trevor Lawrence is yet to get going. Etienne is, let's charitably call him, inconsistent at best. I think this is a Houston team that is certainly one of the best 4 teams in the AFC. You got Kansas City, you got Buffalo, you got Baltimore. I think Houston's right in that mix. I think we're going to see a lot of this team going forward, especially in the playoffs. But until then, I think they take care of business against the Jaguars at home there on Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock.
I don't hate that pick at all whatsoever. The Texans are a very good football team. The only question mark there is whether or not Joe Mixon will play. He sat out last week with an injury, and that made their offense a bit one-dimensional. I think that hurt them. If Joe Mixon is healthy, though, I think the Texans roll in that game, and hopefully we wind up knowing more about that as the week rolls on and as we get closer to Sunday. So I've got the Jets. Scott, you've got the Texans. The one Survivor League entry among all of us that's still alive as we head into week number 4 is my strategic pick. And I'm going ultra strategic with my pick this week because I'm not just picking a team that you might not want the rest of the year. I'm taking an underdog on the point spread to win outright. This point spread baffles me, Scott. I understand that the Bears were a hype team coming into the year with Caleb Williams and Roma Dunzier and a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. How are they favored over the Rams on Sunday? I know the Bears are home. I wouldn't have been surprised if this was a pick'em. As of just before this recording, though, the Bears were favored by 2.5 points. I think that's a mistake, and I think the Rams, riding high after a comeback win last week against the San Francisco 49ers, are in a very good spot, having sort of found themselves after dealing with a lot of adversity to start the year. They're thin at wide receiver, but they've got a guy in Matthew Stafford who elevates a lot of the guys around him. The defense, I thought, played pretty well on Sunday against the 49ers team that, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say it, is better than the Bears are. If the LA Rams team that we saw in the fourth quarter against the Niners shows up on Sunday against the Bears, Scott, I don't think it's close. I understand the Bears have a lot of potential, but I don't necessarily think they're set up for their young players to reach that potential, especially Caleb Williams, who has been running for his life the first 3 weeks of the year. This isn't a fade Caleb Williams, he stinks play, but this is the Bears have a long, long way to go play. And I think the Rams are a very good strategic pick here of a team that maybe you don't necessarily want later in the year, or at the very least until Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are back in 100%. Give me the Rams in week number 4. And hey, as Big Bad Jackie Slater and Eric Dickerson once said, if you ram it just right, you can ram it all night, Scott.
Sage advice indeed, my friend. Yeah,
Find it on YouTube if you don't get it, people.
You definitely touched on the reason this line is the way it is, and that's because there's no Cooper Kupp, there's no Puka Nacua. Kyron Williams really stepped up, and he's going to have another big game running against that Bears defense. And I worry about who Stafford's going to be able to get the ball to. I know that Tutu Atwell really stepped up in the game against the 49ers. We'll see if that can continue. These guys are down on the depth chart for a reason. We'll see what happens. I wish you the best of luck, my friend. And I know for as badly as I roasted your pick, that's going to be nothing compared to what we've got coming up with my strategery pick. And that is going to be right there. Yes, that's right. It's the Will Levis-led Tennessee Titans, baby.
The flaming thumbtacks, as one writer used to call them.
I had never heard that, but I like.
But you can't unsee it once you see it in the logo.
Nope, absolutely not. This is going again with my strategy of fading the Dolphins, who have a very uncertain quarterback situation. Tua, of course, is out. Skylar Thompson, everybody thought he had some sort of massive chest injury. He ended up being able to walk off under his own power after several minutes, but he is questionable for this game. And that leaves touchdown Timmy Boyle and the newly signed Tyler Huntley, who has actually been elevated to second on the depth chart behind Skylar Thompson. Sure, you've got a lot of great receivers. You got a lot of great talent. Achane has really not been able to do much since Tua went out. They've focused much more on stopping the run game. Mostert is questionable for this one. I'm just not sure where the offense is going to come from. Sure, you can write Will Levis down for at least one terrible turnover. Hopefully it'll come deep in Dolphin territory and it won't cost them points. But I think at the end of the day, the defense is going to step up for Tennessee, and the offense is going to be able to do just enough to beat this very, very depleted Miami team.
That might be the first time that sentence has ever been uttered, Scott. Hopefully they turn the ball over deep in their opponent's territory.
That's right. It's really the best case scenario at this point. I'd rather be mad about throwing one at the goal line than I would at their own 5. So
for a Survivor standpoint, I understand that. I get where you're going. I can't have any confidence at all whatsoever in Will Levis or anything with a Tennessee Titans uniform on it, as long as Will Levis is the starting quarterback in his current form. I wish you luck I think we're both going out on a little bit of limbs here with our strategic Survivor picks. But hey, that's why they're strategic, because we're giving you teams that in all likelihood you're never going to want to use again. So hopefully by using these teams, we'll survive this week and you'll wind up with a team that you can use later in the year that you haven't used yet to this point.
Sure. Absolutely. You got to plan for all 6 weeks of the contest, Andrew.
Yeah, really. I mean, we might need to take a look at some second chance offerings at this point. I know those second chance contests are indeed out there for those of us that have been bludgeoned. And I read something that we'll leave you with as we wrap up this edition of the Winners and Whiners Survivor Showdown, which is the biggest point spread underdogs in each of the first 3 weeks of the season. Scott, they haven't just covered the spread, they've won outright. That's insane.
It's nuts. It's absolutely
freaking
nuts.
Bonkers. So if you're out there and you're still alive in either the Winners and Whiners Survivor League or any other Survivor contest, drop a comment down below and let us know how you've done it, because this has been one of the most challenging Survivor slates I can remember in doing this for, got to be about 8-10 years now, participating in Survivor Leagues. While you're down there, go down there, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It helps us out to be able to deliver content to you like this, as well as all of the other content that we deliver across all sports on the Winners and Whiners YouTube channel. If you want more offerings from Winners and Whiners, use our promo code SURVIVOR in the Expert Handicapping store for 20% off any individual item. Scott, anything to add before we bid the fine people adieu for another week?
You know what? There's an old sports betting adage that really holds true with the first 3 weeks of the NFL season, and that is nobody knows nothing. And that's been the case so far. Hopefully, we're going to turn it around and start seeing some more uniform results and expected results this week. So
fingers, toes, and eyes all crossed on that one, Scott. For Scott Steehn, I'm Andrew Champagne. Best of luck this week in the NFL in your Survivor contest, and we'll see you back here next week for week 5 of the Winners and Whiners Survivor Showdown.